Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This reports for the 10th of July. We saw a little bit of continuation. We popped up to new highs, couldn't quite stay there, and just filled back, but still above the previous close. So, all in all, that's a continuation of what you see here from rising magenta as well as the blue over the gray on the MBI readings here, and of course cyan under red. And of course you see this situation with the DOC, and it's important because that steel continuing to dip. You're going to get your weakness when it drops below the negative 13.5, but again, that's a full reset and allows it to come back up from underneath. And once it gets back above the negative 13.5, you're looking in, more bullish from that standpoint. You got rising gold on the shakeouts. These are all very bullish things that we see in continuation moves. Some call it overbought conditions and that, but no, completely justifiable. Now, when we see the differential where you get the swift crossover of magenta coming lower, and or you already have steel moving back above red DOC, then you've got a reset taking place, in which case you have an imbalance that's been created to the opposite direction, and then we can see some kind of movement. But it's not uncommon, even within a bullish thing, to have a move back towards the ABM yellow, particularly when the spread between the 76 and the 100 is this large. It can go on for some time, but at the end of the day, it's all going to be news driven by Powell and their comments. And as long as he continues to toe the line of we're going to ease in the future, we were going to ease, then everybody will be happy as soon as he says something contrary to that. Well, but at a certain point, the market's going to actually want to see that cut that they've been promised, and they think it's coming now. So there's going to be quite the level of disappointment should that not take place. So he's kind of forced his own hand. We'll see if he does it, because the justifications are limited at this particular stage, given what we see from oil continuing its elevated levels. Yes, you have a softening consumer. Now the question then becomes, if the consumer becomes so soft that there are deflationary pressures, but I don't think that's the case at this particular stage. And this sort of is a confusion for the bond market. They're really not clear as to what they're doing, but they've been on the wrong side of everything for a better part of over a year and a half or longer now. They have moments where they come into clarity and then they scroll back out of it. But oil still over the 80 handle, and as long as it's in those areas, you're going to just continue to spike inflation. The fact that it bounces around there isn't really relevant. What will be interesting is the continued attack on Russian oil, and whether or not there are significant supply disruptions that cause difficulties. I mean, obviously, the Biden administration released more gasoline onto the market for the 4th of July holiday, but those are short-term fixes that aren't really going to do a whole lot, and they're certainly not going to stop CPI numbers from coming in elevated, as long as people have to pay more to transport goods and that. It's going to be reflected in prices. From a euro standpoint, of course, they're all excited, but the euro successfully boxed out a lot of the more conservative wings of things by aggregating together, and that should hold off any fundamental changes in Europe. It was interesting to see that the Saudis threatened to sell European bonds if they seized Russian assets for Ukraine. So that alliance that you're starting to see develop from the Eastern blocs and the BRICS could be problematic going forward. It's not a short-term thing, but it's something in the long-term prospects that could start to aggregate. And there'll be a point where people just realize, oops, we've got a problem. But we're not there yet. So just be aware of it. Gold's going to continue its escalation simply because the numbers are going to become clear, and it's going to be counter to what the narrative is. And that's fine for now. Of course, you saw the big news. Everyone was touting how fantastic the return of Bitcoin. Okay, well, we had the positive extremes. It filled, supported right off that, bounced a little bit to it. And they think that the world has been saved. No, it's just a normal turnaround from the readings. Nothing too special. But this deep move below is probably going to see a little bit more of a pullback before it goes too far. Though with the cryptos, they tend to go a little more outside simply because of their liquidity. Just not enough movement in them. And ETH pretty much performing similar. It's a little softer than Bitcoin is, but Bitcoin's got the serious issue with the amount of new money that's going to come in from the Mt. Gox situation, and that certainly could have a continuing linger effect, at least for several more months, with the numbers of billions of Bitcoin that value-wise are going to come onto the display. From a 50K standpoint, we're still pretty much within the range. We had the big pop-up, faded it back, filled it right back in, and starting again. So it's a rinse and repeat, and it's beautiful work because it takes care of options. You can see in the European session here, the fade off all the way just to bring it right back. So nothing too complicated about that. When we look at it from an intraday standpoint, you can see how they get the call buyers going in here, and we'll just go back a little further so we get it clearly for the whole day. Pre-market buildup, filled it back in, shoot it back up again, do the exact same thing, and this is beautiful when you're talking about destroying the gamma and stuff for options. So what we've been talking about for quite some time when we saw the shift of money moving towards the option-related plays, and I think that's just going to continue, and that's where we see our volatility, which is healthy for us. So it gives great opportunities intraday for a lot of activity. As always, though, anything relevant, I'll put on the Skype chat. Have a good one. Trade well.